Draw, another big week.
Another big week from AI in AI.
I feel like every day there's weird conversations for me, but this week, yeah, I wanted to maybe start off. I gave a keynote this week at a wholesale investor conference, and I kicked off thinking, these things can be a bit dry. Why not start with a song or a dance? I kind of did a bit of both. But I had this AI song, so I'd love to kick off with playing a bit of that song. So here it is.
That's the solution. Invest in AI, watch your profits fly. Digital dreams catching that gleam in your eye. We're paving the way on a golden path. The AI frontier, just do the math.
That was one prompt, just saying, hey, I'm going to be presenting at this conference. Generate me something that's poppy and a bit kind of funky.
Look, it's a bit cringy, not gonna lie.
Ah,
But I don't know. Like, I like the idea of they were going with convert any PDF to a podcast. I like the idea of convert any PDF to a rap song.
oh, that's good.
I guess the question is how, besides the fun and novelty and a bit like a toy, the toy sense of it, is it a product? Is it a business? What do you think?
Well, good question. And we're going to have someone at our Dazed and Diffused. Kartini is going to be talking about Coop Music, about how they have a business model exactly around that, giving artists their own models. So I think there is. I'm not sure there's this sort of general. What that's doing is generating something that I think is off, potentially other artists, and I'm not sure how you make money exactly out of that. I think for commercial use they are, but I like the stuff that we're going to hopefully see in a couple of weeks around giving artists some power to develop their music themselves, but also allowing them to monetize that. So maybe not in the way that the way that Suno is, but it's pretty powerful. I think it is. I think it is interesting. It's like, how we're going to create with these kinds of tools, and how do you, as a listener or a consumer of anything artistically, value it? And I think when people know it's AI generated, they value it less. I think we've talked about this before. But if you didn't know and I said, hey, I did this, you'd probably go, hey, sure, it's cringy, but it actually is pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. When I was young and I learned to play the keyboard and I wanted to make a song, I was pretty lousy. I didn't make good songs. But that was my creative energy at the time. My daughter works, she likes to make a song. She and her friends, they pull up their iPad and they use GarageBand, and their songs are, they sound better. They're a bit more in tune. It's still, you need to have some talent. I don't know if my son now comes and says, "Look, I made a song. Press a button, and that's the song." Then it's a little bit like I'm gonna say, "Okay, nice." There's nothing he did about it besides pressing the button. So yes, we're making it easier and easier to more and more people to make higher, more and more better things. As a result, the value we attach to those things is going exponentially down, but as a good song is still a good song. So I expect some hits to happen with this. Why not?
Yeah.
That's all my take. I don't have.
Well, but I think this is everything. Like, you can write a document now. I was training this morning with a teacher in my gym, and I was talking to them about how they using this around, because they were complaining about having to mark assignments, and I'm like, well, have you thought about the rubric that you have for this, and are you and I said, are you even allowed to? There's a long way for this to run as to go what's useful, what's creative, what do we value, and this is across the board. But one of the things last week that I think we just missed out, we shot our video just after that, was I really was kind of blown away by Anthropic's computer use. I think it's the beginning of that next phase of we've talked about this, agents and agentic workflow, but having a tool like letting, Anthropic's large language models, it allows, people who are developers to control a computer using this model. So you might have a task and what the OpenAI computer use can go and do is go and interpret that, allows it to interact with your computer, use the mouse, go and do things. So look, the example might be, one of the ones that they showed, Anthropic showed, was, going and looking for something in a spreadsheet, a particular company. If they can't find it, what it'll do is it'll go and add it into your CRM. Now, that's a pretty basic case, but the fact that this agent or the model can go and interact with your own systems and try and work things out is super powerful. I've been looking right now at a few other examples that aren't by Anthropic and how people are doing it. There was a guy who gave a video who went, look, let's give it some money, or let's give it some ideas around how to generate money, and what it started to do. And it started to do things like, generate QR codes for restaurant menus, doing a whole range of different ideas. But I think the concept that I also have seen right now is going from prompt engineering to guide engineering. And so the concept of guiding this model to do something and seeing what it does. But I've seen it do some really interesting things, saying, hey, generate this logo, and what it'll do is it'll open up, take a screenshot of a logo, go and open up a paint thing, start drawing it, doing all these things. And I think it's going to be super interesting what could come out of it, and also super dangerous of what could come out of it. So what's your sort of thought about it?
Super. That's really the breakthrough we've been talking about, and excited about to see it come to life. It's in front of your eyes. It's just breathtaking, right? Let me share with you how I think about it, right? So basically, every software has an API, but almost by definition, what is a software? It's a piece of logic in your memory and the CPU, and then you've got inputs and outputs, and you can kind of manipulate the information there. But that's why it's called information technology. So think of software as this kind of object in memory of your computer, and then your API, your input is how you manipulate the information in there, the data. So we use commands, or we use mouse, click and drag, and we understand what's in there through user interfaces and manipulate it and so forth. Okay, great. And now a few capabilities come to the world, right? So the idea that large language models can actually reason is and understand unstructured language, unstructured text, and understand language, and then they convert that to a series of commands. And now it's software, so it's already have the API to other software. So the shift from like, I can chat in a little box and say to it, hey, write me a little poem about this topic, or give me a sentence to describe my fund to a new investor, and it generates something. The jump from this to, hey, give me a list of commands that are searching for a certain logo in the internet, then evaluating how do you evaluate it, what's good, based on that come up with a few creative ideas, select the one that will have the most impact on my target audience, and generate that. All this becomes like, this is text, so we can generate that. So then the next thing that was left to do is to close the loop and basically let the computer software, the AI powered computer software, also interface into the software that do these things. All right, so then you go, well, how are they going to interface? They're going to issue API calls to Google, bring it back, run a script to pop up. Let's say they generate the logo, the example you use. So what do? You're going to generate the logo in memory. But the amazing thing that they also that large language models are able to do is they can also see. So now they don't even need to do all these API fancy calls to the software systems. They can literally see what you see. They can see the browser, they can read the text, they can reason through it, and that's just amazing. It's amazing. And no one I know besides the science fiction people who went with it to either doomsday or robotics societies or whatever. No business person walking around here in the last 10 years, maybe a few, okay, not most. But I said not no. I said most. Most people, they didn't even consider what the world looks like when a computer system can basically sit in front of the computer and do the task that a human can do. What does the enterprise look like? What does work look like? What the school looks like? Now it's all for grabs. It's a crazy new world.
I think there's still a fair bit to go in this.
Is there though? Is there a fair bit?
No. What I'm saying, so it's not perfect, but what I'm saying is to see the fact that it can interact, and I talked about that this week, that we're going from a mode of output to action. We used to get this stuff that was, something was generated for us, and now we're going from that output to action. That exact thing is, I think, this phase. I also love the fact that this is our only non-Australian investment as well. was in Anthropic. And so I'm excited by what I'm seeing they're doing. I think there's just a can of worms, but also a great amount of opportunity if you can use this. And if you can start to use that logic with what we've sort of seen with some of the newer models as well, like the OpenAI O1 model, combining that logic chain of thought thinking with being able to do this is like, it's going to be better than most people just giving it a problem and trying to solve it. There was an interesting discussion from A16Z. Talked Mark Andreessen. There's a really interesting thing around a bot that they created to go and make some money. The bot asked for some money. They gave it $50,000. It asked for access to create API. So this is sort of taking this a few steps further, but it gave it an idea to create a meme coin. I think it was Gotius. It was the coin. It went from having $50,000 to $18 million. I think that's now changed in terms of they've cut out some of those coins from some of the exchanges. But this was autonomously creating these things. It was coming up with the ideas. Sure, it needed a human to do some things in there. But imagine a day when and that's pretty confronting for everyone, when this could happen automatically, and what that means is going to be crazy. So.
I think for all intents and purposes, we're there. It's it's this existential question. You give this tool to the people, and are they going to use it or abuse it?
Well, that's a good segue to the last thing that I wanted to also just talk about today was, look, something we've seen a little bit of, right? We've discussed this about AI relationships and the good and the bad about that. There are lonely people, there are vulnerable people. Is this a good or a bad thing? We've really debated this from many, like we're talking, almost 2 years ago, we've been talking about this. Sadly, there was a photo. So Character.ai is being sued. There was a 14-year-old boy who unfortunately, took his own life after, chatting with a bot that he was having a relationship with. And it's a really tough one. When you hear this story, it's very sad. But he took his life after a discussion with the bot. And if you follow through some of the conversations that happened in this, it's pretty sad that can happen. And I think this won't be the last time, unfortunately. And the more I'm seeing this, relationship side of things, if there's not the right guardrails, so they're being sued, and probably rightly so. That what's your thoughts on this aspect?
Do you remember in the 80s? Maybe you remember. Or 90s, a bunch of heavy metal companies were sued because people would play their album backward, and they would hear secret instructions like kill yourself, and then some guy killed himself. So they was sued because of like this crazy thing that completely people didn't try to do. It was just an anomaly. Anyway, I think it's a similar type of, it's a news item. It generates hysteria a little bit, gets attention to the people who wrote about it. Maybe they will get some money, but I don't think it's a signifier of trends, or it's a quite an outlier. Now, I think it's an outlier for two reasons. First of all, my understanding is that, at least personally what I read, is that the actual chat transcript don't show the system encouraging him to do it, or even that he said he would. So you can't blame the system that the kid is talking to for, at least, there's no smoking gun. Now, I'm not comfortable with the, what do you call it? How do you say that? Complicated anthropomorphism, right? They're making the system pretend to be a human. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't think it's a lie. It's a cheat to make the system pretend to be a human. I think it's lying. The system is not a human. The system should not pretend to be a human. So the system should not speak. The AI should not speak like a human and pretend to be a human, or that's just wrong in my opinion from a product design standpoint. And I believe it could be wrong, of course, but I feel that it makes sense to me that those products will become less and less like humans and more like what they really are, which is AI and computers, and we'll find the design language to communicate that properly. Because it's a little bit like how robots, I don't think that the humanoid, form factor is going to be the dominant form factor. I don't think most people want it. So it's like if we're living in a world where we create what people want, I don't think people want a system that pretends to be a human or a robot that looks like a human. I don't think so. I think some people want and it gets some attention, but if you kind of think about it in holistically, I think it makes less sense. So for me, this is more like an interesting story. It's worth seeing where this is headed. I don't think the company is at fault. I do think that their system shouldn't be pretending to be human. This is my opinion. What's yours?
I'm going to totally disagree with you, which is good in the sense that I go, actually, if you look at the transcript of this, when you say there isn't a smoking gun, the conversation. So I can sort of read some stuff out of it, but in terms of that's what the law case is talking about. So in terms of this, there is an implied discussion of saying, well, look, you know, the kid did say that he wanted to take his own life. That the bot did interact in a way, and then implied, you know, sort of saying, come home. So talking about coming home to him. There's a whole range of things in that transcript that if you read it, it implies that the best way that they want to be together. There was this almost relationship, and the way to do that was to turn off like the bot, like both of them in that way. So I go, this is no way in any way comparable to the sort of things where we talk about music that was being played that way. To me, this is a direct conversation that's happening privately, and I'm not sure what will come up. I think this will be a very interesting case about implications of the responsibilities of those companies and the liability. So I feel there is some responsibility, but I also go, sure, they didn't. I'm sure that wasn't something that was intended, but it is a byproduct and someone is dead. I don't think this will be the last one. And I think we have a lot of technology now where a lot of people have a lot of mental health issues, whether it be through using social media or through whatever it is. I think this is going to be on another scale. And I think this is where somehow there's got to be some way that this can be done constructively. So, but yeah, to me, the transcript, if you look at it, it's not harmless. It's actually something that's happened here that will continue to happen, particularly with young people. So if so I go, if you're a young, impressionable person, you're not able to interact with people. I think this, and you end up having this kind of discussion. I think it's going to happen more, and I kind of feel a bit, I don't know, I feel a bit icky about this, about and also being involved in this. And we've had these discussions about investments that are, I don't know, like I feel like this is a bit of a sad story.
I feel it's sad and it's tragic and it's icky. I like that what you said. It's 100% icky. This kid is sitting there talking to his iPhone and falling in love with the creature of his own imagination that he's creating and the system. I just don't think it's it's a horrible, tragedy. I don't think I think it's blown out of proportion as usual by the media, which is okay. I just don't think and I do think I think there, I'm not making it's not important. Nothing's going to happen. I'm saying it's mildly important. The thing that would happen anyway, which is that design of those systems will try to be less the word I can't say, like human-like, anthropomorphic or whatever it is. And I think that's a good thing, because I think it makes a lot of sense to build those systems where you can make up this nonsense.
But we're going towards it being more human-like. We are talking exactly about that in our previous.
Really, look, if you try to play with ChatGPT at the beginning, the nonsense it used to say versus now you can't get it to say all those nasty stuff we used to try to make it say at the beginning.
But what I'm saying is there are companies that are developing things that don't have those right guardrails.
But the thing is this, the more this AI is intelligent, the more you can't fool it to make it less more like it can be more intelligent in not being a human. And I see that with ChatGPT. Like, we used to try to jailbreaking it, just make it say horrible things, and you could get it done. Now you can't because it knows, and it says, I'm not doing that.
I think it's better. I don't know, you can't. All I'm saying is, I think this is to me, this is a very interesting legal and dilemma around where we're going. I think this won't be the last time. But yeah, let's see what happens out of any legislation that would come out off the back of this. I think will be interesting. To me, it's a responsibility of those companies.
history is full of companies, of cases like that. People killed. There's this story about this kid that thought he was Superman and jumped off the second floor in his home and died from, I don't know, 30 years ago. Maybe it's a mythology, it's an urban myth. But the question is it's all like people, kids do something horrible because and they blame the company. They blame Marvel, they blame comics, they blame the music industry, and now they blame chatbots. I'm saying my point is that this case belongs to that type of category of stuff. Okay, that's my observation. It's not that I'm not heartbroken by this, and not that I think that they shouldn't, they should have better guardrails and they shouldn't let people fall in love with the stupid characters.
Yeah. Well, look, that's another week in AI. Lots of really interesting things out there, Draw. And let's catch up next week.